Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
What is this you're wearing?
Air Jordan.
Really?
It is. It's an older shirt, but it's an Air Jordan shirt.
Do you own anything new?
Yeah, a couple things. Not too many, but...
Like a suit?
Well, yeah, I think I own one. I own about 4 ties and about 1 suit.
There you go. We'll be with you tomorrow, maybe a little later, because I'll go to practice in the morning for football. And then Friday, we're going to have Brian Barnhart, the play-by-play voice of Illinois, and Brian Bush, the play-by-play voice of Michigan, to preview the Final Four. They'll join us. As once again, we tap into the circle of friends to make sure we can get, hey, might as well go with your buddies. It makes getting guests on the show easier. So we will do that later in the week as well. The women's Final Four is the exact same group of teams as last year. And we do have to get to a point, and again, I keep going back to collective bargaining, but we're going to have to get to a point where we actually do know how much these guys are getting paid. Like, not right now, you can't do it. They are not employees of the university or anything like that. So I understand right now you can't do it. I mean, you can't.
Right.
But let's not kid ourselves about this being pay for play. If you had collective bargaining, part of that would be the releasing of salaries because people, every single professional sports league out there, you know what people make. We know how much money LeBron James makes. We also know how much money that Peyton Pritchard makes. Right? Different ends of the scale, but we know how much each makes. We know how much Sidney Crosby makes. We know how much Igor Shesterkin makes. Right? We know how much O'Neal Cruz makes, and he's, by any measure, extremely overpaid. And we also know how much money Bryce Harper makes. We know everything from how much Aaron Rodgers made last year, all the way down to what Tanner McKee made last year as the backup in Philadelphia. We know all these things because it's part of the collective bargaining agreement. Now, these student athletes are not employees, so you're not going to know how much money they received.
Right.
Okay? That is under the current, nor should we. But we also have a situation in college sports that is spiraling out of control. And as Ryan Day said the other day, I think it was yesterday. Yeah. We're in a world of college football where you adapt or die.
Yep, like dinosaurs. Yep.
Right? We can be like the dinosaurs. Right? And I remember being friendly with the Triceratops, but really fearing a Brontosaurus because, I grew up in the dinosaur era.
T-Rex was more potent.
Yes.
They were a little scarier.
Yeah. So, but part of adapting is you have to be able to get some control over what is going on out there with athletes. Length of contracts, terms of contracts, standard contracts, insurance, as part of it. There's a lot of elements in it, but you have to now have a collective bargaining agreement. And I know that, a lot of people in college sports don't want to do that, but I'm sorry. You already have models in place in American, sports that tells you how you can have some semblance of not just control, but structure, instead of this, I ain't starting, I'm departing. Well, Tanner McKee is not starting for Philadelphia, but he can't depart because he has a contract. Right? We know him. We also know he's going into the last year of that contract. I mean, he's going into the last year of his contract. But we know that because we know what his contract is. It's part of the collective bargaining agreement. And there's so many elements that they would have to take care of. You know, what is the cap on the pay scale for football? What is the cap on the pay scale for basketball? What is the cap on the pay scale for women's basketball? And after that, I don't know what I don't know if you do one for hockey. I know fans be like, "What about wrestling?" Hey, look, let's. No offense, but okay, there are 72 wrestling programs, and I think Mercyhurst just dropped it, didn't they?
On the verge of it, if they didn't.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're talking about 365 men's basketball teams, 365 women's basketball teams, and football is football. And do you do it for hockey? Maybe. Can you do it? Can you do it for specialty sports, like men's lacrosse, women's lacrosse, wrestling, men's soccer? I don't know. Women's volleyball? I don't know. But you definitely have to do it for those three sports, because if you're going to do it for men's basketball, you do have to do it for women's basketball. And just because you set a cap in women's basketball doesn't mean you have to pay it. But there'd also be a floor.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a cap, there's a floor. Because when you look at the myth that you have parity in women's basketball is a myth. We've said that. That's one of the biggest shocks I've had in sports. You asked me 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I'd have said 30 years ago, hey, the way things are going with high school girls sports, women's basketball is going to get better, the wealth is going to get spread. I would have told you the same thing 20 years ago. It hasn't happened.
No.
It doesn't mean that there's not a great player at New Mexico State. That doesn't mean that. I mean, it doesn't mean there's not a great player at Fresno State.
Sure.
But I'm talking about teams. Right? It's the exact 4 teams as last year. Right? South Carolina's been in the Final Four in 8, 9, 10 years, 9 years in a row. UConn's been in 14 of the last 15 or something like that. All credit to Gino Auriemma and Chris Daly. All credit to Don Staley for doing what they do. But aren't you curious how much money UConn might be paying out? Aren't you curious how much money South Carolina might be paying out as opposed to, pick a school, St. John's, Villanova, who aren't even close to getting to a Final Four? No. I mean, UConn doesn't win games. They obliterate teams. And at some point, I don't understand the NCAA's lack of desire to help itself. I don't understand that at all. Why do you spend all the money on legal fees, going to court and losing all the time, when you can take the time and money and put together a group that can sit down and maybe hammer out a collective bargaining agreement with somebody that would be best for what you're doing in the structure of your sports? What are the rules of the portal? What are the rules, right? And part of it is, and if it means making them employees, which I've always been against because they are students as well, right? But is there a way to do that right?
Yeah, that's
because if they're employees, that also brings with it the benefits of the university and so forth. I mean, again, what
also separates student and athlete a little bit too. Right. Even though they are students, it starts to separate it a little bit.
Yeah, but I'm sitting there, and I mean, say I'm not taking remote learning. Say I'm sitting in a classroom, right? Hey, that student right there is making exponentially more money than I am to teach.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Now you know how now you know how some coaches feel in the pros. I'm the Kevin Petullo. I'm the offensive coordinator. I'm talking to Jalen Hurts. Makes as much money as Jalen Hurts does. But I'm the decision maker. Let's run 4 verts. No, I don't think so. And part of collective bargaining would be, because we have the model set. Even Major League Baseball may not have a cap and a floor, but they do have a collective bargaining agreement. And we know how much Bryce Harper makes. We know how much Paul Skeens makes. More importantly, what he doesn't make. Okay?
Well, he will make at some point.
At the age of 30.
Yeah, it's true.
At the age of 30. Okay. But that aside, we do know. Meanwhile, we're sitting there, and do we really know how much Yaxel Lendenborg makes? I mean, do we know how much Alex Caravan gets from UConn? We don't. The Burries kid at Arizona, don't know. Right? To be honest with you, I'll tell you a guy who probably is not getting a lot, if you're going to guess, is Keaton Wagler. Wagler, who's probably going to be one of the top 7 or 8 picks in the NBA draft, was not a highly sought-after recruit. So there's a good chance he's not making the big money NIL that his teammates are making. You can tell it really mentally affects him as he drops it one shot after another. Yeah, I'm good. But it's not just a curiosity thing. This is not curiosity. Part of getting control, or better yet, structure around something, is that everybody now knows, okay, DeMond Williams, it's not just how much money DeMond Williams is getting to be the quarterback at Washington. It's what is the length of the deal.
Exactly.
Right. And to me, part of the length of the deal takes off the table the game of December 5th, I signed a contract. December 20th, I'm in the portal. What? Essentially, that's what he did. I mean, even his own agent quit over this. And then he eventually stayed at Washington. I mean, Washington was public. We're going to fight this, and the whole thing. Like you signed a 2-year deal. Suddenly, on January 2, you're putting your name in the portal. You had contact from somebody else, right? Which then also includes in collective bargaining rules on tampering.
The tampering and the ability to absolutely.
Right. Yeah. There would be rules on tampering that both sides have to adhere to, with severe, strict penalties to both sides on tampering.
Yeah, I mean, no question.
You're going to have, if you're going to continue, let's not kid ourselves, okay? You can sit there and you can scroll all you want on the ribbon board, courtside, 98% of student athletes, You can do all that stuff you want, which is great because there are 833 athletes on this campus, right? And a fraction of them are getting paid really good money, a fraction. Everybody else is just, the college model is the college model for them. But when it comes to football and men's basketball in particular, but you have to, and again, for Title IX, you have to do it for women's basketball as well. You have multi-year contracts. I mean, they're going to come into vogue more and more. Sounds like that right now the model is a lot of 2-year contracts. That's the model. But you can still put yourself into the portal.
Yeah, I think that's a fair model if that's what it becomes.
No. I'm talking about you have a 2-year contract. No. You cannot put your name in the portal.
No, but it's fair to have a 2-year contract and not a 4-year. You know, where you're going. Yeah, where you're not stuck here or wherever, no matter where, for 4 years. 2 years, yeah, you can't enter your name in the portal.
And what are the rules on deferred money?
Yeah, that's.
Let's not pretend that is not on the table.
Sure.
I mean, you don't. I mean, can you begin to grasp that Lane Kiffin might not offer something like that?
No, there's no doubt.
I mean, LSU gives one the impression. It's just, again, this is perception. We don't care.
Uh-huh.
We just want to win. Okay, I mean, that's the perception they give off. So, hey, your coach is in the playoff, we're taking them, right? Your team's in the NCAA tournament, I don't care about past indiscretions, we're bringing him back, right? Women's basketball, we think she's the best, we're hiring her. And they find the money to do it. Right?
Sure.
And you don't think they're not, yeah, and it may be completely legal. May be completely legal, okay? But they just go out and we'll find money for all of you. I'm talking about the athletes. Because right now, it's the Wild West. You can do anything.
Uh-huh. Sure.
You're going to spiral this thing financially out of control.
If something doesn't stabilize at some point, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Which then is going to affect what? If it spirals financially out of control, it is not. Let's tell you what it's not going to affect. It is not going to affect football.
Well, no.
Okay?
No,
it is not going to affect men's basketball.
No, but it
is not going to affect women's basketball.
No. And not even the more premier non-revenue sports. I don't think it affects those either, but it's going to affect the ones that are down the lower end of the totem pole, absolutely.
Right. And believe me, there's a program that is the highest of the highest here that is in a sport that other schools is not considered to be high in the totem pole.
Uh-huh.
I'm not being a jerk here. I mean, I'm trying to be realistic, okay? As much as okay, it's the best. And we all love it. But you have to be realistic. Okay? Other schools don't prioritize it at all.
And to the high-end universities' credits, for the most part, during COVID, they were able to keep everything afloat because, though it was unexpected, there's no question about that, they also had the resources at that time that was able to not necessarily stabilize it, but keep it at a point where it didn't spiral. Now I think if you don't have stability where money is being thrown around, where it wasn't at that time, the NIL was in its infancy in a lot of ways during when COVID began, when COVID was around here. But now, with money being thrown around like it is, there's no question, absolutely no doubt, you're going to have to make financial decisions that if this doesn't stabilize, you're going to have to make financial decisions that aren't going to be popular.
Well, I'm just saying that if this continues to spiral out of control, there's not enough money to keep everyone.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, the fight goes, okay, who was it that, what school dropped? I think they dropped the swimming program, and then they were able to fight and get money to keep it, it looks like. I think it was down south. But for example, Clemson a couple of years ago dropped women's swimming and diving. We know Iowa dropped 4 sports.
Mm-hmm.
The way it was done was kind of cold. But that's that's what you get concerned about, because there's not enough money. Why do you think Pat Kraft has been making some of the deals he's made? Why do you think that when it came time to bid out the radio network, he was able to get a little bit more than 100% more from Playfly? Because they needed the money.
Absolutely.
Why do you think when it came time to do the Nike deal that they went with Adidas? The money is exponentially higher. You have to be able to do these things. It's not as if they sat there and like, hey, we're going to redo the stadium. The stadium should have been done
years ago,
7 or 8 years ago.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm sorry, it just should have been, because it would have cost half the money that you have now. All right, and I made that statement at the time. If you don't do it now, it's going to cost double. Okay, and you were sitting here when I said it.
Sure.
Only because I know what the costs are. I see it happen in the Olympics all the time. You make the bid 7 or 8 years ahead of time, then it comes time to build the stuff. And what you budgeted for, it's like, we got a problem here. We don't have enough money. And as time goes, and all these costs are spiraling out of control, when Ohio State loses $37.8 million in a year, and here's a trend that you might see, and here's a trend that we're seeing right now. Okay, Bobby Hurley, Danny's brother, Bobby Hurley, the great player from Duke,
Arizona State. Yep.
Right. Okay, they didn't fire him. They just let his contract run out.
Yeah.
Okay, why did they let his contract run out? No buyout.
Yeah.
You're going to see that trend happening more and more. The contracts in the future are going to be restructured in such a way.
I think that second part's the big part of it. Absolutely. You're seeing it in pro football more than you are anything now. And look at how much money pro football brings in and spends. You are now seeing those contracts restructured to where, yes, it's a 4-year deal, but after that 1 year, there's terminology that is going to put you off the books for that person. You see it repeatedly, and you see it for every position, most coaches. You said, look at Bo Bichette's deal in Major League Baseball, same thing. Mm-hmm. You're seeing it's a 3-year deal, but you may not keep beyond this year. Right. And you're not going to lose anything if you don't.
Right. Cody Bellinger had a 1-year opt-out with the Yankees, went back. Alex Bregman had a 1-year opt-out with the Red Sox, even though it was a 3-year deal. He went to the Cubs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. So, again, but we already knew what the contract said.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. But my point is terminology is now at the point where you're going to have those.
Yes. Now, in college sports, move over, boom, boom, boom. We're going to see in basketball, I'm going to say between 2,000 and 2,500 names in the transfer portal.
Sure. Absolutely.
Look at, let's take Michigan, for example. Mara, UCLA. Johnson, Illinois. Lendenborg, Southern Mississippi. Cadeau, North Carolina. Gale, Ohio State. Burnett, Auburn. Those are 6 of their top 8 guys. Okay. Homegrown? No. Those are 6 of their top 8 guys. You'll see, Illinois will have Z. Avicic, Kentucky. Right? You'll see Stojakovic, Cal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, look, it's just this is the nature of the game right now. It's just the way it is. Yeah, Reed played at Michigan at one point. Terrace Reed for UConn.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Right? No offense. I thought he was just another guy.
Yeah.
Now he's the guy inside. To his credit. But hey, you have moving parts all over the place in college sports, and there's no structure for it. And all this fight over the years to not want to pay athletes has them scrambling every year to come up with something to somehow keep it as close to status quo as possible. And it's not going to work. The courts won't let it work.
No.
The courts, okay, again, when people come up to me, the Alston case worked its way through. Guess what happened when the Alston case worked its way through? The Supreme Court voted 9-0. You actually got Elena Kagan to agree with Samuel Alito on a case. How bad's your case? How bad is your case? Sonia Sotomayor and Brett Kavanaugh, lockstep. How bad is your case? Hey, really? 9-0. If you had the Supreme Court plus 8, you didn't make it.
Didn't make it.
I mean, come on. Okay? And they're telling you in no uncertain terms, you can't keep doing what you're doing. Okay? And you can't keep going to Congress with the hat in your hand saying, we need help, we need help, we need help. Just negotiate. Help yourself.
Help yourself. Yeah.
Okay?
Somebody come to the forefront.
You have 4 professional sports models in this country that tell you how to do it. Take the model that you think fits best and adapt it to your situation. It's not as if this has never been tried before. Let's give it a shot. That's not how it goes. You have 4 professional models. And I don't know what the WNBA contract looks like as a 5th model.
I don't know anymore.
Okay, I don't know.
No idea what they agreed on.
Right. I don't even think the players do. But you have all these, okay, I don't care whether it's MLS, WNBA, you've got all sorts of models out there. You can't sit down in Indianapolis and hash this out and say, okay, now we need to identify who represents the players, which I think is an even bigger thing.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
Somebody has to represent the players at the table. And how long do you make the agreement for? The NFL's 10 years, as an example. 10 or 11 years, one of the two. And believe me, you know how close the NFL is to not having it? The average vote when they voted, because the rank and file has to vote on it, was 32-30. That was the average vote for a team. 32-30. In other words, it passed by 64 votes. And there aren't 2 million players.
No.
Okay, it's that close. Right? Because of that, they then got the TV deal. They couldn't get the TV deal unless they had the contract. Right? Do you do it as a conference? Because, look, hear me out on this.
I think there's a better chance that happens. Yeah.
Hear me out on this. It's one thing for the NCAA to have this deal in place. Okay. Which you can do.
Yeah.
And should do.
Mm-hmm.
But each conference has its own TV deal.
Yes. Yeah, I think there's a more realistic chance you see the conferences come to the forefront more than the NCAA as a whole going with a model. I think at that point, and it's typical to what we've seen over the last several years, is the NCAA passing the buck, which I think probably will happen at some point. I think there's a more realistic chance that we see, not necessarily a mandate, but okay, conferences, you want to get this under control, you adapt your own model.
I know on the NCAA level, you keep getting this. They need to pool their resources on TV. No. Okay? I am dead set against that. We've already had that model.
Yeah.
We already had that model. That was the model before.
Before, yeah, absolutely.
Okay? The 84, 90, it's already gone to court.
Sure.
Oklahoma, Georgia, 1984 versus the NCAA. I know, shockingly, the NCAA lost. Okay. We've already had that in court. The conferences are allowed to go out and do it. And I'm sorry, I've got TV ratings all over the place. I cite this over and over and over again. The brand names are in the Big Ten and the SEC. And you're expected to get the same amount of money as Wake Forest does? Really? Boston College. Penn State and Boston College would get the same cut of money? Are you kidding me? No. And I already have Georgia and Oklahoma versus the NCAA. I've already got a court precedent. I don't have to have everybody come together. Well, we all come together and do one. Stop it. Okay? Your brand is not powerful enough. You can't help that, but it's a fact.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So maybe other conferences do it. Something. You've got to do something. And you've got, and the thing, you can't keep delaying it over and over again. You just can't. And you already have the schools, like Wake Forest, they can pay out $20.5 million. And each conference has rules. For example, the American, I believe the floor is you have to pay at least $10 million. You go below 10, you can't be in the conference. Doesn't mean you're going to pay $20.5 million to your athletes. You can pay 11 if you want. But you have a women's Final Four that is the exact same schools as last year. Okay. And that's not an April Fool's joke.
No.
You're sure it is?
That's right.
You wear that shirt on the day where LeBron James became the winningest basketball player ever.
Well, it's only fair. LeBron becomes the winningest basketball player ever, and they're more focused. They're pumping Luka for MVP.
The coverage of that sport's ridiculous.
It's gotten that point, no doubt.
And there are 30 teams in the league, and they only concentrate on one.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have what can potentially be one of the great playoff matchups if it does happen in the Spurs and Thunder, if it does happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think that's the one team that matches up very well with Oklahoma City.
Well, I thought the Lakers matched up with everybody.
Lakers match up with anyone. I think of legendary head coaches. J.J. Redick's first one comes to mind.
Okay.
Forget about the guys before him in L.A. It's not like they won championships. And yes, I know Frank Vogel won a championship. I wasn't talking about him.
He speaks highly of you.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's...
You have to do something. You just can't keep delaying it because...
No, and that's what they're going to keep doing until it becomes it becomes the point where it's a must, and they're pressed on it.
The longer you delay. And again, right now, under the current, we should not know how much athletes make now. Under the current.
Agree.
Right? But when you get a collective bargaining agreement, that then becomes a part of it. Okay, now we know, boom, okay, this is what X makes, that's what Y makes, this is how long their contract is. Because then everybody else knows, okay, you know what, he can be a free agent after 2 years. There's your portal. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have to give him credit. What a mess. All right, so...
Never.
We're getting great games.
Sure.
Okay, it's not like we're not getting great games. We're getting great games. Penn State, Indiana here at Beaver Stadium was a great game.
Sure.
Penn State didn't win, but it was a great game. Oregon and Penn State in the whiteout was, I mean, the tension of that, down the stretch, the excitement of the stadium, the tension in overtime, right? The 2 overtimes. Okay, it didn't work out for Penn State, but it was a great game. Right? Ohio State, Michigan, great game. Yeah. James Madison, Oregon. Oh, wait, no. Tulane, Ole Miss, no. No, did I miss something? I think didn't we tell you going in there were going to be routes? Yeah.
Oh, JMU came back and made it a game. Oh, yeah, Oregon had their 7th string in by that point.
I was talking with Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, and he was at the Oregon James Madison game, and he was telling me, he says, about it. I'm not going to do exactly what he said because we'll just keep it between us, but when you're talking about 24 teams in a playoff, let me put it to you this way. After talking to Tony about it, and I just asked questions. He asked, he did ask for an opinion. I gave him an opinion. As part of the conversation, he asked for an opinion. And I can see where he's coming from with it. How about that? If you sat down and actually listened to what he had to say, you'd sit down and go, okay, wait a minute. There are some things that we need to consider here. He actually brought up some great points to consider. And I think that will we ever get to that point? I don't know. But I understand exactly where he's coming from and why.
Sure.
No, I'm just saying. Because I mean, you're normally a pretty closed-minded guy, but I mean, what? No, what was the one you wanted to hear? So, have a little fun with you. But back to the original point about player salaries. Again, right now, no, you can't.
No.
They're not employees. So you can't. But you can't. What's happened is here's the pendulum. The pendulum of power was all on one side for a long period of time. Instead of the pendulum settling in the middle, the pendulum has gone
the other side.
It's gone way to the other side.
Agreed.
Right? You've got to get the pendulum back to the middle because, believe it or not, it's actually good for both sides.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
It's actually good for both sides. That's why you have to get it back to the middle. And then the ability to know what the athletes are making, once you sit down and do something collectively in a bargaining unit, that has to be part of it. And it's not just for you, the fans, to know out of curiosity. I want to know how much Rocco Beck gets paid. No. That's not what it's about.
No.
Okay? It's about everybody else out there knowing how much X gets paid, how long their contract is, when can they be a free agent, what would it take to to get them? What's the cap? Can we work the cap to get him here?
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's what it's about. Dan Hurley and Tom Izzo gave last week, leading into their game, I think it was somebody from Outkick, believe it or not, that asked the question each about accountability. And both of them gave great answers because, look, everybody sees Dan Hurley on the sideline.
Uh-huh.
Oh, look how he acts and all that. It's like, okay. All right. Everybody's their own personalities. I mean, you in the hallway, insane. Takes a lot to calm you down.
Never touched an official yet. Not yet.
Oh, boy. By the way, Roger Ayers,
Yeah.
Seth Greenberg asked Roger Ayers about what happened after that. And Ayers said, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, like Greenberg asked him again, and he says, it was obvious to him. He said, Roger Ayers had no idea what I was talking about. So obviously nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So it's like, I always tell people, do your own work. Don't follow the narrative. Seth Greenberg did his own work. He asked him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Will that put us to rest? Oh, of course not.
No.
You have people that like to have the listening ability of the wall, which, by the way, is my primary audience. It's like talking to you.
That's right.
What? So, but they talked about accountability. And Tom Izzo, in making his point, said, so if a guy makes the same mistake 15 times, am I supposed to pat him on the back and go, it's okay? No.
Absolutely not.
Your job is to do everything you can to not make the mistake the second time or even the third time. That's what practice is about. Practice is about eliminating as many mistakes as possible. That's where you can stop as a player and say, I don't quite get what you want here. Or as a coach, why aren't you running?
Why are you doing it? Yeah.
I'm going to physically, I mean physically. You can put your hands on them. Okay,
Sure.
I'm going to move you to this spot right here, right? If you want, or you can just point. Hey, you got to come over here. Okay, right? And that's teaching.
Absolutely.
Right? And as Dan Hurley then made the point, he says, look, because except for an open practice at an NCAA tournament where everybody gets to see coaches with their teams and things like that, all the other practices are closed along the way for the most part. Especially during the season. Maybe in the off season, no, but they're closed for the most part during the season, football and basketball, where a few people get in and so forth. That's where I've been incredibly fortunate in my career. I've always worked for coaches that said, yeah, go ahead. I mean, yeah. And it's not as if you don't see, did I ever see Joe Paterno yell at a player? Of course. Did I ever see Joe Paterno kid around with a player? Yep. See Bill O'Brien yell at a player? Oh. Did I ever see Bill O'Brien kid around with a player? Absolutely. Right? James Franklin. Did I ever see James Franklin get mad about something? The whole thing, hey, James would get angry about something, right? And did I see James Franklin kid around with players? Absolutely. Same thing in basketball. I've seen Mike Rhodes. Mike Rhodes, right? Will he get upset about something and go and stop and do it over and then they do it again? He gets upset about it, and then do I see Mike kid around with the players? Yes. Micah Shrewsbury. Same thing. Pat Chambers. I mean, I know you see a persona on the sidelines, right? But did I ever see Pat laugh and kid around with the players? Absolutely.
Sure.
Right? Have some fun. Hey, we're going to do a midcourt shooting contest. Right? If you hit one, you get to stay in. We'll eliminate them one by one here. 3-point, top of the key shooting contest. Right. But the bottom line is that when you make mistakes, and how often have you heard me say this? This is an accountability part right here. If somebody can't run a play in football, you cannot put the play into the play. You can't use the play in the game. If one guy can't run it, you can't use it. Right? And this is why I've always been, it doesn't mean coaches don't make mistakes. Coaches do make mistakes. Coaches do make mistakes. And you can talk about play calls and things like that. Like, you're going to read the article about the Eagles and the 4 verts against the 49ers at the end. Right? I think the thought process was, that team's so stupid they'll never. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
Oh, you're 49ers.
Team's so stupid, so depleted, we're going to easily throw this and it's going to work.
Right? And so you'll see that. I mean, just stuff like that come up? Sure. That happens. But the bottom line is, a lot of times, a lot of mistakes are made out on the field by the players. And sometimes it's just an innocent thing, whatever. I've told the story about the Auburn game, the intentional grounding of Sean Clifford, right? Clifford goes back, throws it deep down the field. There's nobody there. It was like, they threw an intent. It was stupid by the official. I'm sorry. You have to have a feel for the game. It's obvious somebody ran the wrong route because he wasn't pressured. Everybody in the stadium's like, what? And then they got mad about the intentional grounding, which they should have been. Like, what's going on? Where's Sean throwing the ball? What the heck? That's because one player is supposed to run an out, which is a clear out, and the other one's supposed to run a streak. Well, one player ran an out, the other one made the mistake and ran an in cut. Uh-oh. That means nobody's at home at the store. Okay? The guys in the center of the field like, oh, geez, I ran the wrong route. Now, you don't know that unless you see it. That's coaching. No, you went over. You want to know how many times I saw that play run in practice? Right? They run the play. I'm like going, even I'm sitting there like going. Right? I remember going to the commercial break because that was the 3 down sequence where the SEC officials were all over it and they had it exactly right. And somebody else in the stadium had it exactly right, and they were all of them were dead wrong. And there was 3 downs.
Yeah, literally.
Right? Penn State had to punt
on 3rd down.
Right, and James is like,
as he should
justifiably freaking out because James had it right, and you're like, what the heck, right? But I use that as an example. That's a simple play call with good players running the play, smart players. I'm talking about all the players involved in that play are smart players. Right? Just turned out one of them made a mistake because, except for Jerry Valeri, everybody in the station makes mistakes.
That's right.
Jerry's was just a management mistake. What? 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 It's April Fool's Day. By the way, I hope the rocket goes up tonight. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one quick story about that. Now, they will orbit the moon. They will not land on the moon. So they'll do what Apollo 8 did in Christmas 1968. They'll go out, orbit the moon, then come back. But there have been, 12 astronauts that walked on the moon? Well, at Purdue, we're doing a game at Purdue. And Purdue has had a lot of astronauts. When you go to Purdue, there's the Neil Armstrong Hall of Engineering. And Gene Cernan, who was the commander of Apollo 17, was the last man to walk on the moon, Purdue. And Neil Armstrong, first man to walk on the moon, Purdue. So they're having them on the far side of the field from the press box, run across the field on the 50-yard line. And the next to last to be introduced is Gene Cernan. They're playing Penn State in this game. I mean, that's why I'm there. I don't randomly go to Purdue football games unless Penn State's involved. And I'm like, oh, man, this is so cool. Gene Cernan. And the last guy they introduce, obviously, is Neil Armstrong. And I'm sitting there as a kid who watched all this, as a guy that watched this as a kid growing up. I'm like, this is the coolest thing going. And Cernan's like, he's going across, he's waving the whole deal. I'm like, going, God, the last man to walk on the moon. And then Neil Armstrong goes running across the field. And Armstrong always was a very stoic, staid guy in public. I think that'd be fair to say. Okay? Well, he used to be in the Purdue band. And he goes running across the width of the 50-yard line, throwing his fist in the air. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Then he grabs the drumstick, the big drum, and starts jumping up and banging the drum. I'm going, oh, this is the coolest thing going. Plus, Penn State won the game. Right, well, today, they're 6:24. They're supposed to launch that thing to send 4 astronauts up there and go back. Haven't been back since Gene Cernan. Right? And I know that, management has wanted to send you to the moon for years.
I'll tell you. And they say not even round trip. They're saying one way. It's not fair.
It's cheaper.
It's much cheaper, but still not fair.
Okay, that's how management operates. One-way fare. Oh, we could do it round trip. Yeah, but I'm telling you, one way is cheaper. Let's do that. I was kind of hoping you wear a Tony Kukoc shirt today, but that's okay.
Well, yeah. Couldn't find my Croatia basketball shirt.
Or Luke Longley. Longley played against Penn State.
Really?
Yep. New Mexico.
New Mexico, yeah.
New Mexico, 1990, third place NIT.
Nice.
I was a witness. Penn State won the game in overtime. It was
nice.
By a point. It was actually, it's like 84, 83 or some number like that. Yeah. So, yeah. I've announced a Luke Longley game.
There you go.
Right.
Announced the game of a 72-win team. Technically. A player on a 72-win team. Ron Harper's here for CVC. That's 2, at least.
Yeah.
He was here, yeah.
Interviewed Jordan.
Yep. That's 3. That's the big one.
I'm glad you think so.
He did a few things. He was a little bit of a factor on that team.
Right. I mean, like, are you wearing that shirt because that's what Michigan wears on their jersey? I don't.
I remember when they were in negotiations with that deal, because that was when Harbaugh first went over there. They polled, what would Jordan brand be like? Well, it's your biggest brand in Nike, for crying out loud. I don't understand why you'd have to ask it.
Did you see what Nike stock is today?
No.
Remember what it used to be? 117, something like that. You know what it is today? As of this morning, it was $46 a share. Like, whoa. Yeah. I was kind of taken aback by that. I mean, it has nothing to do with anything. I just happened to see it this morning. Yeah. I'm not making a commentary. I just, I'm seeing you wear that. And obviously it's a knockoff. So, oh, well. Yeah. It's April Fool's Day.
That's right.
I think enough people have had enough of seeing this fool for one day. So there you go.